Is the bubble about to pop? Let's talk about that. I'm Kyle Wong with the Moxie Real Estate team here in Colorado.
Welcome back to the Innovator, the Imitator, and the Idiot. I'm Corey Martin with Edge Home Finance here in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, and as always, if you'd like to get in touch with us, schedule a call. Link down below. So, the bubble. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's a lot of doom and gloom. We've all heard of it. What the heck is going on?
Yeah. I think when we talk about the real estate market right now, there's so many people that's kind of the source of where we started our podcast was that there's so many people out there that are talking about how doom and gloom it is, how bad the market is and what's going to happen and how crash is coming.
2008. Right?
Oh my God.
God.
And for me, I think especially for, our generation, most of the people, your age, my age, and everybody in between, I think that we remember 2008 is like the worst that, it was. I mean, and we've lived through some pretty traumatic things, right? As
I remember getting a brand new PS3, but yeah, it was bad. Terrible.
What I remember was just like high gas prices, and I remember just things like and people losing their homes and real estate being really, really cheap, and just like this kind of feeling of hopelessness and despair and just like sadness, I guess.
Yeah. No, it was rough. It was rough, especially with the job loss and just there was an overall, I don't know, aura, attitude, like just this. Yeah.
There's a blech about,
right.
I just I don't know, I think about like the pictures and like the idea and the image that I have of the year 2008, and it's definitely like a cloudy sky.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I don't, everybody talks about how expensive and hard things are these days, which is totally true. Gas prices went crazy for a while. COVID was terrible for a lot of reasons, but it's not like 2008 in my opinion. There's some rough things here and there. Every year is unique, obviously, but specifically when it comes to the housing market, what's the difference, I guess?
Well, I think when we talk about what 2008 was, it was a situation where there were tons of people losing their jobs, and because they were losing their jobs, they could no longer, on top of that, they could probably not afford the home that they had purchased to begin with. They had purchased a home with an adjustable rate mortgage, that ballooned, so the payment on that property went up quite a bit, right?
Yeah. And they were probably not qualified for it either. No doc loans.
Exactly.
People pretty much walking in and saying, "I want to buy a house." Cool, here you go.
Sweet, that's it. That's exactly what happened. And so, really, truly, if think about it, put yourself in that situation. A person loses; they were probably spending too much on their housing to begin with, right? They weren't abiding by that 33% rule where that says you spend a third of your gross income on your monthly gross income on housing. Probably weren't abiding by that. Then to go on to that, their payments increased, and so they ended up foreclosing on their home, and thus there was a ton of homes hitting the market. There was a ton of inventory hitting the market.
Yeah, bad combo.
Right, exactly, bad combo. What's happening today, right? Or why are people saying that the market we're going to see another 2008?
Yeah.
I think that what people are saying is that, oh my God, the interest rates are rising and people can't afford their homes. So that's just going to mean that, we're going to see interest rates rise.
Yeah. But being able to not being able to afford your home before you buy it is a lot better than not being able to afford your home after you buy it. So that's a key difference, because when you buy a home, you're locked into your rate, and unless something tragic happens and you lose your job, you're usually going to be okay.
Yep, exactly.
Let's talk about that in particular. The housing market, as everybody knows, it's crazy. What does that mean? The market shot up, right? Interest rates went way low, affordability went way up, people just flooded the market. So,
correct.
Really since 2015, 2016, 2019 was crazy. And then 2020, we're like, oh my gosh, oh no. Okay, let's everybody buy a house all at once. And so it was nuts. And, now that we've seen kind of I don't even know if I can quite say a return to normal. It's just normal market effects. But like, interest rates shot back up pretty quickly. So affordability went down. There was a dip there for sure. But now we've seen another crazy market. And so houses are selling over asking, multiple offers like we've seen a couple years ago. And so it's not like this big crash that everybody was expecting, but we still have people talking about it. And so I guess my question would just be why?
Yeah, I think it's because it's a strong talking point. It speaks to people's emotions.
Really? Fear-mongering in the news? Say it ain't so.
I think that they're looking at the affordability issues and saying, hey, there's not going to be enough people in the market to potentially purchase.
Yeah.
But that's just not tracking.
It's not true at all. In fact, we pulled up numbers earlier about, you guys know, buy low, sell high, supply versus demand. And we have such an incredibly, incredibly low amount of supply for how much demand there is. And
Right.
if you think we're just saying that, we've got the numbers to support it, right? You can't have a market that's this hot with no demand and enough supply. We just don't have it. And
yeah, that's it. I think that's the key there. It's right now we're looking at a 25-year low as far as inventory goes.
Yeah.
That means that for every person for all of the people that are out there purchasing a home, there are more people purchasing a home or looking to get into the market that can't find a home to purchase one than there are over the last 25 years. I did not say that. I went through way too many words to get that point across. But again, we're looking at an inventory 25-year low as far as inventory goes. And so what that means is, to me, it's like if inventory is low, but demand is high.
That price is going up, baby.
Exactly.
That's going up.
That is a big difference between what's happening now versus what happened in 2008.
Yeah.
Is that in 2008 there was quite a bit of inventory. In 2023 there is no inventory, and so that's one reason why we're not going to see home prices drop the way they are.
Yeah.
When we're looking at why we're not going to see the inventory go up as quickly, a few things are: first, home builders aren't building homes as quickly as they once were.
Yeah.
Another issue is that, or another item would be that 60% of the country has an interest rate that starts with a 2 or a 3.
Who's giving that up? Who's giving that up?
Well, that's in a much more affordable rate, especially if you bought your home in, let's say, 2019 or 2018 when your interest rate was 5 or 6.
Yeah, right.
Or much earlier than that. If you bought a home in the 90s, then it could have been 7, 8, or 9, and so now you have a much more affordable rate at 2%, or maybe you cashed out your equity and did some things there. So people aren't jumping to sell their home as quickly because they can afford it now.
Yeah. And so what about, just moving forward, I guess, what about the two extremes? So to preface it, I think you guys probably know what we think, but we're not seeing that. We've said this so many times now at this point, but we'll say it again. We don't anticipate there being a huge pop. The bottom's not going to fall out. We are seeing some changes, and some pretty drastic ones for sure, but it's not going to be like 2008 where, one day 300,000, the next day 150. Holy cow, where's my equity, right? Yeah. That's another thing. Back in 2008, people didn't have equity. They couldn't afford the loan. They weren't in it long enough. These days, I can't remember the numbers, but there is so much more equity built up in these homes simply due to the appreciation, the crazy rate of appreciation over the past couple of years. So that being said, when it comes to the two extremes, it really, really depends. The future market, we're saying, it depends on interest rates. And so let's go to one extreme where, again, we don't anticipate this happening. This is just like a crazy what if. If interest rates drop back down, the Fed says, okay, this is what we're doing, 2-3% interest rates. All right, go crazy, everybody, which they're not doing.
Right.
This is a theoretical.
Yeah.
What would happen then?
Well, I think that we would see a ton of people that weren't able to purchase a home at 5% interest rate. Now they can at 2 and 3%. And so we'd see a lot more demand in the market that would cause home prices to shoot up even more.
Yep.
we would see, again, in that scenario, we wouldn't see a bubble popping at all. We would see, we would have a much bigger affordability crisis because, if we're thinking that we're seeing a lot of more homes get, multiple offers on them now, imagine what it's like when everybody else, has a 2 and 3% interest rate, and so now they're able to purchase more home, or there's more people in the market as well.
That would really exacerbate like the current issue, which is the supply versus demand issue. Because again, even if all the builders in the world were to just go build like crazy, which is not going to happen either because cost to build is so high right now, right? So that's not happening. But even if they were, I think the metric in Colorado, or maybe this was Colorado Springs specifically, to match the demand, it would take, oh gosh, I think they said something crazy like many, many years.
Yeah, we would have to be building for 3 and 4 years.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
If nobody bought up that inventory.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's if home purchase in order. So I think what Kyle is saying is that in order for us to catch up on inventory right now, in order for the housing demand to meet the housing inventory right now, what we'd have to do is we'd have to build homes. Everybody would have to stop purchasing homes right now in June 2023.
Just wait. Hold on. We'll get back to you in 10 years.
Yeah, and in 10 years, we would have to, and then in 10 years, we could catch up and have enough homes for everybody that's submitting mortgage applications right now.
It's crazy. So it just, that would be nuts. And that's kind of what we saw in 2020. Obviously it was a little crazier because you got that paired with COVID and everything else going on. There were some other economic factors. But what about the other extreme? I mean, what if the Fed's like, you know what, we're going full recession right now. We are sending you guys back in time. Like we are slowing it down. We are cooling it off. We're going to like 10, 12, 13%. Like what then?
Then I think we would see demand drop quite a bit. I don't think the bottom would fall out. I don't think that we would have a place where demand would match our inventory. Let's say cut our demand in half. Okay, we still have to build houses for 7 years. For 7 years in order for us to catch up to the demand, and so we wouldn't see the same rate of appreciation then because we wouldn't see the same amount of offers on every home.
Right.
So we wouldn't see the market wouldn't be as competitive. It'd be much more like you'd much be able to maybe get some seller concessions, kind of like the market that we saw here in Colorado over winter.
Yeah, just a much more neutral market. I mean, I think we've become so accustomed to like such a hot seller's market that like anything less than that we think is weird. Anything less than like a 20% appreciation year over year we think is unusual, but it's not. And so when we see these drastic changes in numbers year over year, like, oh my gosh, the median house price sold dropped that much, or the number of houses being sold dropped that much. Yeah, when you compare it to a year ago, compare that to 10 years ago, to 5 years ago, even 15 years ago would be right around that recession time. So that would be more, a little bit more drastic. But again, these are not big changes that are so unusual. It's just us returning to a more normal market, really. Right.
We've got some data here right now. And if we're looking at the median, the historical median sales price for Denver, Colorado, in December of 2016, it was $335,000. In December of 2022, it's $530,000.
Yeah, and it just went up every year.
It's just going up every single year. So what we're saying is that, over that 6 year period, home prices almost doubled in our market, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
If interest rates were to double, let's say we got into double-digit interest rates, while we wouldn't see the same amount of home appreciation as we're seeing now, so 6 years later, that $530,000 house won't be worth $1 million.
Nah.
We would still see, multiple offers. We'd still have a home, we'd still have a lot of homes hitting the market with getting multiples of offers on them. So, I think that's it. Is the bubble going to pop? Are we going to see the bottom fall out? No. I think the next steps to this are just home prices to continuously go up.
Yeah. And one thing I will say is just like a final thing is kind of a counterpoint to what we're saying. But due to, the nature of the market and people always wanting to get a good deal and get creative and stuff, I do think the worst is yet to come. Meaning, I don't think we've seen the full effect of interest rate hikes. I don't necessarily think the affordability issue, which is definitely an issue. I mean, if you think things are expensive, you're right. Housing is expensive. Like, living is expensive. I swear, I go step outside and I breathe and it's like, how much would you like to add for a tip? And I'm like, whoa, what the heck?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But no, for real. I think the worst is yet to come, meaning the rate at which we are appreciating, we've leveled off quite a bit,
right?
Like quite a bit. And that's what most people are saying is the crash, whatever. But I think we'll start to see some of the effects reflected in the market soon-ish. So maybe like 6 months to a year and a half, depending on how things go. And here's why I think that too. Mostly just because, like I said, when a market shifts that fast, people immediately go to, well, I just got that 6 months ago. I just got that a month ago. My neighbor sold for this much. I still want that. And so they'll find any way they can to do that. And so when it comes to things like 2-1 buy downs, 3-2-1 buy downs, creative financing, right? Seller wraps, all assumables, all that stuff. Like people that bought a house, 2-3% interest, and the next person, if they can get into it for that price, they're going to do it. I think a lot of those things are sort of artificially holding up the market to a level that maybe they shouldn't be at. But again, like you said, with things being so crazy and having such a high demand that maybe by the time it actually catches up, you won't even notice that dip, right? So
I'm with you.
I mean?
Yeah, I think that I'm with you 1,000%. I think that you're right. The worst hasn't come yet, but this is what I think is going to happen. I think that it's an affordability crisis in that it's kind of takes a step away from housing, but it comes right back to it because your housing oftentimes determines your access to certain resources, which determines your trajectory or ability to oftentimes earn.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That affects your income. That affects like what kind of stores you're going to, access to whatever.
Exactly. And so what I think is going to happen is that, there's just going to be a certain section of people that can afford to purchase a home and a lot of sections of people can't. Or you'll have to look at developing a skill set or getting to a position in life that allows you to move to a part of the country that allows you to purchase, right? Simply put, a lot of people aren't going to be able to buy homes in the Denver metro area because what's going to happen is, look, so
we got
median
pricey.
We got pricey, right? So the median home price in the Denver metro area is $530 right now, right? Okay,
that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. That is you mean to tell me that in order for a kid to be able to, for a family to purchase a home and send their kid to Denver public schools,
average house,
they have to purchase a $500,000 home, right?
Which
that means that you have to be earning, your household income has to be, probably closer to 180 to 200, depending on what your debt to income ratio is. So
it's crazy when you put it in terms like that, because we throw that number around a lot. We're like 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, and it's like when you break that down into what would be coming out of your bank account every month, you're like, whoa, that's a lot.
That is, you know what I'm saying? So, then depending on, and that's like, when I say your household income is 180 to 200, that's like no student loans, like
no credit card,
debt, none of that stuff. Like you are clean as a whistle as far as that goes, right? And so think exactly who is, and so that means that the people that are able to purchase homes again in the Denver in Denver County, right, or in the Denver metro area, are folks that are earning, households that are earning over $200,000 a year.
No, we get it. Yeah,
that means that's a very small selection of the population, and so otherwise you'll end up having to move somewhere else, right? You got to move out to Reunion. You've got to move out to the Springs. You've got to move out.
One thing I will say, like, when it comes to the market of those people, we talked about like who can afford our area generally, or certain other areas. I mean, Colorado is obviously a hot spot. It's a destination. It's a place to be for sure. But what I think it's done is kind of separated like the wealthy or the people that can't afford or have built up equity or whatever, for whatever reason, the wealthy from like the bottom of the barrel, if you will, financially. And I always thought that was really interesting. Like, I don't want to read too much into it, but there are a lot of programs for like people who make under a certain amount. You know, we talked about this recently, down payment assistance programs, you know, certain things like that. But in the middle, this is a topic I'm passionate about, the missing middle of like, I just make an average amount of money, I do an average thing, and I want an average house. Where the heck, what am I supposed to do? Right? Because people at the bottom, they get some help, right? Yep. It's rough, but they still get some help. People at the top, they got money. They can do whatever they want to. But right in the middle, it's like, you know, I'm struggling to get an average house because I don't have any like supplemental income like some people, but I also don't have any help when it comes to like down payment assistance programs. I make too much to qualify. So I do anticipate some issues coming out of that. And so we'll just see. Yeah. I mean, I think one way you can kind of predict how that goes or how that happens is look at more mature cities or cities that are simply older and look at luxury towns and see what's happened and how they've handled it. So I think of maybe think over to New York City. Yep. Or Los Angeles, like downtown proper, or think about like Aspen, right? Yep. What's happened there? What are the issues that came out of that? I totally think Denver is going to be just like that. They're going to go through some really rough spots. They can only have, only certain people can afford it. And then, people have to like take out the trash. People have to clean your toilets. People have to do like normal city jobs. Where do they live? They can't afford to live there anymore. So now you have a city that doesn't function. So, yeah.
Look at Atlanta. I think
oh man, it breaks my heart.
That's it, right? Yeah. Look at Dallas. Look at Houston. Well, like Texas isn't as bad, but you know, Atlanta is a great example of that. And I think this is getting off of housing, but still within housing, we're going to see the Springs blow up. We're going to see Fort Collins blow up. We're going to see as these places in Denver, within Denver proper, become more and more, or less and less affordable for the person who, for a guy who makes $80,000 a year. Yeah, like that's a lot of money. Which
used to be a solid number. Now it's like,
okay, what can he afford? He can afford to live in the Springs. Yeah, he can afford a condo in the Springs. He can afford, a decent home in Fort Collins, and now he's got to commute an hour and a half to work. So
what the heck?
But that's what happens to these cities, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger until, by the end of it, Fort Collins is touching Pueblo.
Dude, I know. That urban sprawl, man. That urban sprawl. And it is sad because it seems like it's a cycle that happens over and over, right? Because, Hollywood's the place to go, LA's the place to be, and now it's like, there's been such a mass exodus out of California as a whole for a lot of reasons, but like every big city hits it at some point. Yeah. And it's sad.
Yeah, and it's driven, obviously that's driving some of the growth to Colorado is that, the lack of affordability in some of those places. Colorado also it's been a hidden gem for a lot of people. When you look at our economy and look at like, just literally like our weather, what do you want to do here? You can be, you can do so many different things across the board here, from being within the military to being in the government to being within sports and entertainment to being within the arts
or
to
tech.
Being tech. Yeah, I was just going to say tech.
Anybody
as well.
Everywhere can do anything all
Oil
the time.
And gas, right? So there's a lot of opportunity here, and that makes this place really, really attractive. Yeah. Same with places like the Carolinas. These are places that are growing. Tennessee, another thing here is that we're pretty, liberal, and so people feel free to like live the lifestyle that they want to live. Yeah. That said, I think it's just going to continue to grow, and that's why it's even more important to really start that process of being able to purchase real estate. The sooner the better. It's never too late, because you can always like, you can always leverage it, like
don't be that person that gets like priced out of a state. It's always so sad when I hear that, like friends and family, they're like, well, we just can't afford rent anymore. It's like, man, you should have bought a house when you knew you were going to stay there, honestly, because guess what? Your costs for your mortgage stays the same. Yeah. Property taxes and insurance fluctuate, obviously, but not enough, not as much as rent does. Yeah. Rent will go up every single year. Yep. And it's that is seriously what makes people move. People start in Denver, they love it, they've been here since the 70s, the 80s.
Yeah.
Then they're like, man, it's kind of rough, like it's expensive. Then they move to Colorado Springs or another cheaper, less expensive town. And next thing you know, they're like, oh, I can't live there anymore. I can't stand the people that move in. And it's just a cycle of like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Sorry to make that all negative, but like, it's heartbreaking, man. I love this state. And like, I want people to be able to live where they want and flourish where they are.
I think the quality of life here is top notch, right? I think that it's I
can do everything but surf.
Yeah, I think the quality of life here is amazing, and I'd love it for the people. If you want to stay here, I think that you should be able to stay here, and I think that if you go to work every single day, and do your best, then you should have the opportunity to own something.
Yeah,
and I think that you should also be able to one day retire and to sit back and relax and enjoy the fruits of the said labor. And I think that the best way to do that, saving $1 a day isn't going to help you do that, but purchasing a home that's going to appreciate at an average 6% value year over year will. And in order to do that, we just got to, I think that we just need some help, and people have to get the resources. They've got to get the information that they need to do that. But
people just don't usually know that they can.
Yeah, that's it. And
but I always tell people this, like, if you are renting right now at full market rate, you can probably buy a house. I am so positive about that.
It's one of those things that if you're renting right now at full market rate, then 1,000%, if you are making good financial decisions, you should be buying a house 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not going to live here, this is an opportunity to build your financial, build wealth.
Yeah.
To develop, your financial portfolio.
Good word. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
This is your portfolio out here. Yeah.
We're locked in, brother. We're locked in, brother. And so even if you aren't going to live here, I think that, like we said, people are going to continue to move here. Real estate's going to appreciate here. So you should probably purchase here and, be able to leverage that asset later on in life. So, that's it. That is it.
That is it. Well, we are the Innovator, the Imitator, and the Idiot. I'm Kyle Wong with the Moxie Real Estate team. And
I'm Corey Martin with Edge Home Finance here in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
If you have any questions about personal finance or real estate here in Denver, Colorado, or across Colorado at all, please don't hesitate to click the link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys.
Thank you.